Hey, good evening everyone. I hope everyone is doing fantastic, having a great evening, morning, afternoon, or whatever it is, wherever you are. Please like and subscribe, hit the things, do the things, hit notification to get notified anytime I launch a new video. I haven't done any so far this week, mostly because I've been busy with other work and things, but I'm going to try and keep it consistent. Today, we're going to watch Leeja Miller, who is a feminist lawyer of some description, talking about the manosphere, and we'll just we'll see what our take is, and maybe we'll comment on it as and when appropriate.
My daughter Ivanka always says, "Daddy, nobody respects women more than you, Daddy."
There was this about Jessica Leeds, who accused him of sexual assault.
Yeah, I'm gonna go after her. Believe me, she would not be my first choice, that I can have.
The fact is, when you give women rights, they destroy absolutely everything around them, no matter what other variable is involved. Even if you become the ultimate alpha male, some stupid bitch will still ruin your life. The vagina...
So at the very beginning we start with cherry picking some quote from some neo-Nazi without any surrounding context.
And is the perfect representation of the nature of females. An empty vessel, a hole, a void with no identity of its own.
The funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show, and everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else, and no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that everything is good. Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes.
I'm in a state of exuberance that we have a president who rates women on a 1 to 10 scale in the same way that we do, and evaluates women by their appearance and feminine attitude. We may have to institute a new feature called Would Trump Die to signify the importance of feminine beauty ideals. Trump embodies red pill thinking into every fiber of his being. It's important that we support him. Trump might be one of our last hopes to overthrow the current...
Anonymous men's rights redditor. You see how desperate they are for, to find these inflammatory quotes from dark corners of the internet. Like people will say anything when they're anonymous, it doesn't mean anything.
System and banish the liar forever. More importantly, he's the embodiment of everything masculine. Trump becoming president in the United States means the West will eventually reflect him. We are taking our manhood back. No more slaves. Freedom for all. Since the dawn of the internet, it has...
Okay. Right, yeah, I think I see where this is going to be heading. Few of the classic red flags, I think, with this lady. This happy and satisfied looking bastion of femininity right here.
It's been a place for people from all fringes of society to come together and find community in their shared beliefs. When those shared beliefs are violent and create...
So we've gone from a video, right, that has manosphere in the title to stock photographs of a Nazi rally with southern flags, rebel flags.
A tribal-like focus on identity and power, those online communities grow like wildfire and eventually escape the confines of the digital world and create real consequences that can end in violence, death, and even insurrection. A lot of energy has been spent focusing on the religious radicalization of kids on the internet and the danger they pose to national security, but not nearly enough attention has been paid to the radicalization of white men on the...
Andrew Tate's not even white. He is a person of colour. So it's interesting how they go from this association of manosphere to white nationalism and, far-right extremist groups like that. So it doesn't actually make any sense in reality. The link is spurious. People in the manosphere of all creeds and colours, we all have the same problems with the women in our lives.
The internet and the danger that poses not only to girls and women but to democracy writ large. Because
how do they make the leap from manosphere rhetoric to democracy at large? Like, that is just total nonsense.
Because once a person becomes radicalized around one set of beliefs, such as that women are the enemy and men are the real victims of feminism, it becomes a lot easier to jump to the belief that immigrants and women are...
How? You need to demonstrate that. Like, you can't just claim it. Because it's an inflammatory statement and you're not offering any evidence. It's almost annoying to try and deal with these people, because it's obviously they have the same propaganda style of propaganda, the same rhetoric, and it's a lie. But we'll continue. Let's push on.
The enemy, and white men are the real victims of feminism.
Where are you getting the white men thing from again? Her example was Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, who are both half person of colour.
Globalism and the cultural Marxism that has taken hold of every corner of life in the United States. It's a slippery slope that leads to killing sprees, violence, and wholesale insurrection. This is the manosphere to alt-right pipeline we should all be talking about. Roll the intro.
The manosphere to alt-right's pipeline. I think Kevin Samuels, the Godfather, was an alt-right person. I wonder how he would have felt about that smear.
The place online where multiple different men's groups congregate, generally in forums and websites like Reddit, 4chan, and 8chan. These groups are many
I think that's not really true, is it? I mean, I think the manosphere is a bit bigger than 4chan.
And disorganized, but they include men's rights activists, incels, and pickup artists. We'll get into the nitty-gritty differences between each, but suffice it to say, they're communities where men are able to gather, voice their...
So this is what she has an issue with. These are communities where men are able to gather, voice their concerns and opinions, and get advice. It shows you, so in the Western world, you cannot advocate on behalf of men.
Their concerns and opinions, get advice, and connect with other like-minded people. While many sources point to the internet as increasing the feelings of loneliness and isolation the world over, it's also allowed for isolated communities and individuals to gain a sense of belonging, friendship, and camaraderie when they've struggled to find it in the real world.
How is any of that bad?
And one of the most isolated groups of people in the world are men.
I bet she loves the thought of men being lonely and unhappy. Loves it. Thrives on it.
Especially men who feel that, for whatever reason, they don't fit in with regular people, or who struggle with friendships and feelings of isolation. And a lot of men struggle with isolation.
And do you think this lady has any sympathy for that, or any empathy for it?
A 2021 survey found that only 21% of men said they had received emotional support from a friend within the last week, compared to 41% of women. And just 25% of men said they had said, "I love you" to a friend recently, as opposed to 49% of women. Between 19...
Men don't say that sort of stuff to friends. And men are the one group in society that are not allowed unconditional love. And when your dog can get unconditional love, your daughter, your wife, anyone, kids, anyone except a man can get unconditional love in this world. We only get love if we produce, and we accept that. We're not complaining about it.
1995 and 2021, the number of men reporting that they had no close friends jumped from 3 to 15%. No close friends. And the number of men saying they had at least 6 close friends went from 55% to 27%. And that isolation has real consequences. Social isolation can significantly increase your risk of premature death from all causes, a risk that could be just as high as smoking and physical inactivity. It's also been associated with a 50% increased risk of dementia, and along with that loneliness comes the risk of self-harm. Between 2000 and 2020, 800,000 people died by suicide. Men made up about 80% of them. And the pandemic only made it worse. In 2022, the CDC recorded nearly 50,000 such deaths, the highest number ever recorded. There are many...
Surprisingly, I think it's almost a balanced take on the men's loneliness crisis, but let's see what our conclusions are.
Many factors that may explain the reason for this isolation. Again, the pandemic didn't help, but male isolation has been a trend for decades. Looking at that isolation through a feminist lens, one piece of the puzzle is that those feelings of isolation stem from the patriarchy, which
there we go.
Defines masculinity in stark opposition to femininity, and requires that in order to be a real man, men must be strong, emotionally controlled, confident, they must be able to provide for their families, they must be traditionally handsome and muscular, they must show no sign of weakness.
No, this is what society expects of men.
The absence of
we didn't make these rules.
Any of these traits makes a man vulnerable to attacks on his masculinity. The consequence of this is generations of men who have no clue how to connect with other people because real connection requires vulnerability, something they're taught never to show.
She hasn't presented any evidence for that leap that she just made there.
Leads to increased incidences of suicide and violence. But the
Again, no causal link.
anonymity of the internet provides an outlet for men who feel they don't fit the mold. They turn to the internet for advice and camaraderie. This can lead men, especially young men who are at their most insecure as they're trying to figure out their identities and all of this, to turn to forums to seek out advice from others for how to better fit this mold. This can start as something as innocuous as seeking out advice for how to talk to girls and maybe what workouts to do to build some muscle and improve their fitness. They may...
Okay, so we're allowed to do that? Is this lady approving us, trying to improve our situation and talking to each other and others to improve our dating success? Is this okay in her eyes?
Find helpful forum posts from men who felt very similarly to them and have managed to change their lifestyle a bit and benefited from it. They feel seen, and they feel a sense of connection that they've been searching for. So they dig deeper into the forum, and sprinkled in with the advice for high-intensity workouts.
If you want to know how not to be a creep, you have to be Chad. Be good looking.
And protein supplements, they see posts that suggest perhaps part of the problem isn't just that they need to change themselves, but actually that women are causing a lot of this pain and isolation through their rejection of them. So maybe women are the problem. And this is a tempting explanation, especially to explain the anecdotal experiences of lonely, especially young men. Hey, that girl Sarah that I had a crush on in the 8th grade told me I was too short and everyone laughed at me. It's her fault that I feel this way. And I see a few similar anecdotes on this forum, so it must be women generally who are the enemy.
That isn't true. I mean, she's making a massive leap there. I don't think the manosphere is rooted in men thinking that women are rejecting them and therefore we need to blame women for anything like that. I mean, we will call out women on their programmed, propagandised behaviour, particularly when it comes to the dating marketplace, but the manosphere is about, in my opinion, it's about accountability. It's about being the best version of yourself in order to maximise your chances. You won't hear people in the manosphere talking about how the dating market's not fair. We accept the inbuilt, inherent unfairness of the dating market and we have adapted. So this is fallacious. It's a fallacious take.
It can make a person feel seen and like maybe they're not the complete piece of shit they thought they were. And maybe that in fact they're fine and it's other people who are the problem. And this is where the essential disconnect happens. Instead of
okay, so this is where it starts becoming a problem, according to this feminist.
Having someone come in and tell them the other people who are the problem is society writ large and the predominance of the patriarchy, which requires strict adherence to gender roles at the risk of social isolation and harms both women and men. Instead, someone is there telling them, no, you aren't the problem, and the other people who are the problem.
So her take is that the patriarchy in inverted commas, is responsible for the bad outcomes in modern society of both men and women. Like, without presenting a thread of how that is or any data to back up a conclusion.
Or women. You are in fact a victim of women, and it's not women who are reinforcing the patriarchy that are the problem. It's actually women who are feminists. They've been given too much power. In fact, things were better in the 50s when they had less power. Men back then...
No, I mean, I think this is a spurious take, and I see where she's going with this. I think, in terms of happiness, the outcomes for both males and females in the past were better because we had predominantly a monogamous dating market.
Definitely didn't feel isolated or bad about themselves because they took their rightful place as the patriarch of the family. Women didn't fight their places in society, and everything was right with the world. It's feminism to blame for all of this and the women who adhere to it. And that...
Yeah, like, I mean, she is, like, I appreciate her take is extremely biased, but what she said there is factually correct. Feminism is an anti-male movement, which, in concert with several other isms in society writ large, have created a two-tier society in which men are by definition, under the law, are second-class citizens.
Now you have a young man who's gone from casually consuming tips about protein powder and how to talk to girls to a young man who believes he's the victim of a vast network of tyrannical women whose empowerment is keeping men from taking their true place in society. And the deeper this young man gets, the more he personally and emotionally identifies.
No, what our position is that feminism is an anti-male movement with the full backing of the law in order to create a two-tier legal system in which men are penalised based purely on their gender.
Identifies with this online community because it's the first time he's found an explanation for his pain that both makes sense and also takes his personal responsibility.
No, it's not about taking away personal responsibility. Men are, and always have been, the people who bear the personal responsibility to the higher degree. We're not looking for someone to blame or to be a victim. We are looking for a framework which explains the situation and gives us a valid set of tools or a valid worldview which can help us improve ourselves to be best adapted for the situation we find ourselves in. This is the world we're in now is the world which women or the feminist movements have fought for. We're just adapting to being here.
Out of the equation. I'm not the problem, I'm the hapless victim. And then...
No, we're not victims. Even if we are victims of feminism, we do not have a victim mindset. We have chosen not to be victims, which is what the manosphere is all about.
What the man does about this feeling depends on which flavor of manosphere our hypothetical young man has found first or most identifies with. There's the men's rights activist.
So it's quite irritating to watch, isn't it? Because she's very dismissive and very, like, her views are very paper thin. They're kind of like smeared over the top of what's actually going on. She doesn't have like a nuanced or detailed understanding of what's going on, and her biases are clear and obvious. And she has a certain smugness about her.
Or MRAs, who have been active since long before the invention of the internet and tend to focus on how society is rigged against men, especially family law courts where fathers' rights are being infringed, and employment law where women are getting ahead by playing the woman card.
We are the...
Yeah, I mean, do you dispute that?
Male men. We are a men's rights activist group and we are fed up.
I'm sorry, what's happening now?
Then there's the more Andrew Tate flavored pickup artists, or PUAs, who...
Andrew Tate's not a pickup artist. It's like, has this lady even done any research apart from mainstream media talking points?
Who have also been around longer than the internet, who teach young men how to talk to girls, not from a place of genuine interest or respect, but from a place of psychological manipulation. They see this as a sexual war, which men have to win by any means necessary, including coercion, gaslighting, and even rape. With
Really? Okay. Wow.
Leaders in the community advocating for the legalization of date rape and teaching it as a skill in their books, seminars,
That's absurd.
and many online forum posts. Similarly, incels, short for involuntary celibate, blame their forced celibacy on women who they see as trying to control them by holding out on sex.
No, this is not what the manosphere is all about. The manosphere is acknowledging the fact that females are hypergamous. And unless you belong to one of the top tiers of men, that is to say, rich, good looking, all these things which women want, then your odds in modern society of being able to get a mate are far reduced from what they were in the past.
Something that these men across the board believe should be available to them at all times.
No one is saying that. And that leap that she made there shows how biased and poorly informed she is.
And feminism is to blame for women not being as sexually available to them as they were, say, back in the 1950s when everything was perfect. While spending their days obsessing over women, how to get them, how to have sex with them, how to hurt them, how to control them, how they're ruining their lives, these men also openly despise women, posting some of the most vile, dehumanizing, violent tirades against women that can be found on the internet. These communities are many and varied and not
She hasn't given any examples.
organized, but they generally tend to have common through lines of violent attitudes.
There we go, violent attitudes. Without presenting any evidence.
towards
She's actually proven the point that men are essentially treated as another class in society, and feminism is a war on men, which is basically smearing us, gaslighting us, telling us that we are violent and don't respect women simply for talking to each other and acknowledging the inherent unfairness of modern society against men. We're not even allowed to advocate for ourselves or our group.
women, who they believe are undeserving of respect, as well as generalized feelings of victimhood. They are victims of a system that has been rigged against them in favor of feminism by tyrannical women who want to see them suffer, and women.
Yeah, that take is more or less correct, but I don't think it's so much by tyrannical women. I think feminism is just a vehicle for an overarching agenda in society to, one, create division between men and women. Secondly, to depopulate the Western world by, because feminism is essentially a depopulation movement. It's a supremacist anti-male movement, but it's also designed to keep these women alone and with cats and dogs and not have families. So, I mean, the women are being used as essentially useful idiots in this scenario.
Women generally must be punished for it. A recent article from The Atlantic explains further. Anti-feminism offers to address a genuine sense of grievance. Sites such as 4chan, another anonymous message board, have developed a whole language to talk about the hurt young men feel. Stacy's, conventionally attractive, sexually available white women, date Chads, jocks, ignoring nice guys who get friend-zoned. Men who claim to be feminists are manginas and white knights. If these men date feminists, they're probably being cucked or cheated on, because women like real men, not beta males. What starts out as, why won't girls sleep with me, an appeal to a wounded sense of entitlement, becomes, why can't women be controlled?
And therein lies the fallacy. That is nowhere any part of the manosphere. We're simply pointing out how women have been conned by the propaganda of modern society and have been playing themselves and have had their hypergamous and entitled natures manipulated in order to make them hate men, go to war against men, and also to damage their own prospects of having a family and a future.
And this appeal to male entitlement and feelings of inadequacy, the threat to their masculinity caused by lack of stable, well-paying jobs, women who are able to work and pay their way without the help of men, more women who don't want to date men at all, declining birth rates, and a whole host of other phenomena that challenge the status quo and paint the world as scary and risky.
Yep, I mean, that's the... See, when you peel away all the layers of this stuff, the feminism debates and the manosphere and all the rest of it, ultimately this is a top-down agenda which is designed to depopulate, prevent families from forming and having children is the primary goal. It's nothing to do with freeing women. These are just the excuses they use to push this nefarious agenda.
Can lead to further radicalization. And so one thing leads to another, and these men go from anonymous online forum commenters to very public, very violent offenders.
Very public, very violent offenders, with no data or examples to back this up. Like, there's no causal link. There's no reason on the earth to suggest that, you know, men organising amongst themselves in order to better their situations and encourage each other, share advice, and how to be the best versions of themselves. And then they make this artificial jump from that to violence, which doesn't exist. At least not in the sense that they're trying to make out that it exists. It's just simply a lie. It's a smear against men, really.
Very quickly. Take, for example, the 2014 mass shooting at Isla Vista, California, that ended in 22 injuries and 6 deaths before the shooter took his own life. In the hours leading up to the shooting, he had posted a 141-page diatribe in which he explained his hatred of women, fueled largely by an intense frustration over his own virginity. In the document, he described himself as the closest thing there is to a living God, saying he was the
So what's this got to do with the manosphere?
ideal, magnificent gentleman, and could not comprehend why women wouldn't want to have sex with him. So his only choice was to exact revenge on the society that had denied him sex and love, declaring at the end, I am the true victim in all of this.
If you can find me a manosphere advocate who is aligned with this one individual psychopath or whatever, you know, it doesn't exist. It's not a real causal relationship.
I am the good guy. His attacks centered on a sorority house at a local college. The shooter has since become a martyr in the incel online communities.
No, he hasn't. Please provide data to back up these claims. This is just basically a hit piece.
His 141-page document has since been adopted in various corners of the manosphere, with excerpts
Well, I've never even heard of it.
used to justify further vitriol. 4 years after the Isla Vista shooting, a man...
I cannot watch any more of this, man. It's just making me angry, right? Essentially, it's just a hit piece. I'm sorry for bringing it into your life. This woman is awful. She just packaged together a pack of lies and smears against a community of men who basically just want to improve their situation and expose the facts of a two-tier legal system in which men are second-class citizens and in which women's hypergamous nature has been exploited in order to damage them and ruin the chances of them or the men they would traditionally be having families with to have families. So, we'll leave it there. I've had enough. Have a good night, everyone.